A very good evening, viewers. You are watching Voice of Toronto Television with me, Anjum Malik. Today is actually Wednesday, and I hope everybody is doing well. You are watching us on all our IP channels. You are watching us on Facebook Live, YouTube Live at the same time. And during this transmission, if you would like to connect with us, our numbers are always on the screen, which is 905-670-4114. व्यूअर्स जैसे आपको पता है कि दिन ब दिन यहाँ पर जो पॉलिटिकल सिनेरियोज़ हैं कनाडा में चेंज होते रहते हैं और चेंज हो भी रहे हैं, शिफ्ट्स होती रहती हैं चीज़ें लिबरल से कंजर्वेटिव से एनडीपी एंड ऑल दैट काइंड ऑफ स्टफ. So as you all know that we at Voice of Toronto TV, we run all sort of campaigns. We bring in member of parliaments from conservatives, from liberals, from NDP, mayors. We talk to everyone. This is a current affair program, and the whole notion of the show is that to provide you and create awareness to our community. Bring on, a lot of candidates who from different ridings. Either they are serving in some capacity or they will be serving in future in some capacity. And this platform is designed for those people to come on and we introduce them to you, in our community. People who are watching us, from Pakistani, Indian community, some Arab communities as well, some Iranian community as well, because we have different multicultural programs on this television platform. And I was just kind of, before coming down to the studio today, and I was just thinking that, 8 years of liberal government with the Honorable Justin Trudeau. During pandemic, there have been some good things that has happened. Some bad things also happened. The government was there. They have helped, the Canadians in general. But at the same time, there are a lot of backlashes on the government as well on so many things. And we don't know whether the election will happen within the next few months, tomorrow, day after tomorrow, or maybe next year. This is something yet to be determined. But I believe that it is important that the vibes that our younger youth have, that must be heard. It is becoming harder and harder for people to afford to live in this country, and I feel very actually compelled somehow. Sometimes people talk to me and they say that we are leaving Canada because we can't live in this country anymore. We're going to the south. And we made Canada as our home when we came in as an immigrant to this country. And now when we hear this notion that it is becoming so hard and hard and hard, you can't afford to bring your, raise your families in this country. You can't afford to have good housings. Jobs are becoming an issue as well. Food prices are up. Crime is going up every day. So all in all, I felt there is some sort of a shift that is going on. The wind is blowing, and we don't know which way it is blowing right now, but I believe there's a shift in thoughts in people's minds. And I thought that'd be a great idea to speak to a candidate who have the opportunity to run as a candidate from Member of Parliament from Conservative Party of Canada, and to chat with her and to see that what is for the people of Canada if tomorrow there's elections and if Conservative Party of Canada come into power, how they can be instrumental in bringing Canada united back, where we're getting a little bit of shift over here. So with me in the studio today, I have a dear friend who I've known for some time, never had the opportunity to brought her into the studio. I've been seeing her at different events and festivals. Hanan and Rizkalla, she is running, she will be a candidate, she actually ran as a candidate from the Oakland North Burlington area. And I believe this is the riding she's going to run again when the next elections will happen. So she is with us in the studio tonight, and welcome to Voice of Toronto TV. Hanan, how are you?
Thank you, Anjum, for having me today.
It's a pleasure, and I think it's always a pleasure to speak to someone first of all, who is very literate, you know, in what they do in their lives. And to me, you know, being a profession of myself into a field of aviation, broadcasting, well, I learned so many things. When I see women's are you know, they're excelling so much in this society, it is really very I would say encouraging to see that women are coming at par to men in this country. I don't know financially if that's possible or not in some ways, or we are at par on money wise or not, but at par, you know, with what you guys do. So I feel that few things that we need to talk about, first of all, before we talk about any politics and who you are with what party you are. I know who you are, but in general, you are a doctor.
Yes.
You come from a medical field. What inspired you or motivated you to go from a doctor field into politics? Let's talk about yourself for
Sure.
a couple of minutes.
So I would say it was in me since I was younger age. When I graduated from medical school, my master degree is in public health. So it goes again into
Okay.
public policies,
Public services.
public
Okay.
service,
Okay.
and that's my master's specialty. I have worked in multinational pharmaceutical companies for 15 years
Right.
in different capacities like regulatory affairs, clinical research, medical affairs. So all of them goes into the medical and regulatory compliance.
Right.
And I worked in other governments than Canada before coming to Canada as a regulator, again in healthcare. Putting policies and working with free zones, with businesses, leveraging and bridging between businesses and government. So that was kind of my study plus my experience. So when we came to Canada, I was very
And what
intrigued.
year was that?
That was almost 12 years ago. And I was
Okay.
intrigued to get involved more. I have a friend of mine, MPP Sharif Sabawi, who was running at that time provincially,
Yeah.
which encouraged us as a newbie at that time to engage in and be in the canvassing and see how election happens provincially at that time.
Yeah.
And it's very pleasant when you support someone and they win, and you see the success there,
Yeah, yeah.
and you see their achievements. So that was for me kind of the know-how roadmap.
Okay.
And then COVID happened. And again, going back to my public health background, business background, acumens, and everything I know, many stuff didn't make sense to me. So adding this to that, I said, you know what, it's time for me to run. Being a woman didn't stop me.
Were you got approached by the party, or you approached the party?
Usually you have the fire inside you.
Okay,
It
you have
drives
the
you.
fire. Okay.
It drives you toward running.
Okay.
And that what drove me there. And I sat with many of my community leaders and I said, you know what? I feel in me to run in Oakville, North Burlington. Many constituents and people around me were complaining, but the problem is people at the street, they don't have time to get engaged politically. They complain, they get bothered, they get annoyed, but that's it.
Yeah.
They need someone kind to fight the fight for them, and I felt I can be that person.
Okay.
My family encouraged me to do this.
Okay.
My husband, my kids were behind me for that, and my friends. So I said, you know what do I need more? Let's do it.
Okay.
And I approached the party.
Okay.
They were so welcoming to that, being a woman, being an Arab background, the experience I have, and I ran last time. That was 2021.
Yes. I was going to tell my audience that you ran for the Member of Parliament candidate seat in 2021, and you fought well as well.
Yes.
So you were born in which country?
I lived all my life in Kuwait. I mixed between Egypt
where
and
I grew
Kuwait.
up.
Right? Neighbors.
A little bit. In
Yes.
Farwania.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I was in Hawali.
Hawali.
Yes.
Okay.
So
What a
I was
small
raised in
world.
Kuwait. Almost, my parents are still there. Like
Oh.
we are kind of Kuwaiti by living. And then I went back to Egypt for my education and marriage, and then we moved to Dubai.
But born in Egypt, raised
Yes.
in Kuwait.
Correct.
Okay. And
Correct.
got married in Dubai.
No, in Egypt, and then we moved to Dubai, and then we
Moved to
moved
Dubai.
here. So I would say I lived in 4 continents, like
So
5
you have
countries.
2 accents, a Kuwaiti accent and Egyptian accent?
Yes, and some Emirati there.
Some Emirati as well?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
okay, all right.
And then we came to Canada. So my kids were young when we came here. I don't think they remember where we came from. I think they belong to Canada more than any other country.
They do. No, it's a beautiful country, and you know, we brought in our children here. They excelled, and alhamdulillah, they are in very good spots where
Yes.
they are. One is serving the government, you know, and in the policing, and so I mean, they're all in a good spot. I feel that we as immigrants in this country, we owe a lot to Canada.
Correct.
We owe a lot. And this is one of my way of giving back through this platform
Community services,
to the
yes,
community as
yes,
well. Like
yes.
you want to do a public service.
Yes.
This is also public service. It has its different domains, what we do. But I feel that there is some sort of a void somewhere that maybe is because in Canada we only have 3 parties, and the party generally who rules are liberals and conservatives back and forth. So it's like people say, okay, liberal had 6, 7, 8 years, now it's time to go a change and go to conservative.
Yeah.
But I feel that those switch from a change to a liberal to conservative, back and forth, that is not the key to the problems. The key to the problems is to, on a grassroots level, this is what I feel, is to understand the problems.
Yes.
For example, I give you an example. In the last 3 days, an owner in Owen Sounds came from Bangladesh, running a restaurant, and he asked the people who he was serving for a bill. They start beating him. He was beaten so bad that he ended up in the hospital, where he went on a life support, and then he died.
Oof.
And then the funeral happened. Now we left behind 3 small children. 3-4 days before that, a student comes in from Pakistan. He jumps from Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
He dies. He is a brother of 3 sisters or 4 sisters, 18-year-old. I believe the problems we have in this country is a neglect of the society. We are all so much busy as the politicians in so many other things that the basic things are getting, you know, not looked at. And this is what I feel that, you know, in the media, you know, it is our job to bring in
The education,
you know, all
to the
that
people.
information
Yes.
to the public. But going behind the scenes and what's going on behind it, that is important, that we need to fix that problem.
Yeah.
You know,
If I can comment on that
100%.
one, I think what politicians need to present to the people is the real value of them running. So I am totally against anyone, like I always tell the people at the door, I'm a physician by education. If I focus on my job, I would kind of, from money point of view, earn more than the MP or like the job in the government. But that's not the purpose to run, not the power, not the money. And the politicians has to be clear about this. They are running for the people, not the opposite. So the current government, you feel that we are working for the government. So my daughter, I was just introduced to you before the interview. She just started her first job. She's 16 years old. And a couple of days ago, we were discussing about her first earning. And you know, the minimum wage is like 14.60 cents. And I had to explain to her that this 14 something would not be in the bank 14. There was cut for the tax, which is income tax, and I have to explain to her what does that mean. But then she would receive something like $12 from 14.
Maybe 8 or 9.
8 or 9, and then I had to explain to her that then she takes the $8 to buy food where she pays tax for the food, and then she goes to buy a surface like doing her nail or hair, and then she pays tax on the surface, and then she pays tax on the product, and then on the gas like to fill the car, there is a carbon tax there. She will end up in the bank if she ends up with $50 maybe from each hour she works, which is nonsense. And her question to me, why I do pay tax on the income and then pay tax on the product and then pay tax on the service, which just doesn't make sense for her. But then if you think about it on a bigger scale for the like adults like us, how are we struggling as an adult in this government to pay here and there, right and left, where the government goes spending every penny they take, right and left, without accountability. So are we going forward? No, we are not. Is things getting better? No. Inflation getting worse, debts getting worse, people getting more poor, and nothing is getting forward. So then what? So back to your question.
So let's talk about. Okay, sorry, finish that.
So back to your question, the shift between governments, liberal and conservative, is not the key. The key is someone to come really wanting to make a change for one reason: the people.
Yeah.
You have to make public hearing. You have to know how people goes. Like if you compare the time, I would say back in 2015 when the current government came on board, you would see the Prime Minister and the MPs every day at the street meeting people down to ground. Now they are rarely here people. People maybe rally out under the Parliament. They will leave them there for 1 or 2 months or whatever until things goes west and bank accounts is frozen and things goes bad. And that's not Canada, what we want. So I think politicians has to remember always, they have to remember that they are running for one and one reason only: the people. The time the politician will not be feeling that they are delivering what that job needs for the people, they should be voted out. And then bring in someone else, not going for the power or for the money or the pension or whatever reason else. It's only to serve the people. And we have a couple of politicians in the history.
That should be the
drive.
That should be the job.
Yes.
But let me get to the point here. You are a candidate.
Yes.
For Conservative Party of Canada, and during my interviews, I get very straight up with the candidates and with the guests when they come in. And you see, I don't make any notes.
We haven't discussed
whatever
any
comes from the heart. This is what it is.
Yes.
If the election happens tomorrow.
Yes.
Let's talk about tomorrow.
Yeah.
What is your leader's vision for Canada right now? Not negating what Liberal Party is doing and what Justin Trudeau has done in the past 7-8 years. What is his agenda? Give me on the fingers.
Sure.
That what he wants to fix right away in this country.
Sure. So I will speak on my tongue on his behalf because we usually attend meetings with him and we convey the message. I would speak about 4 pillars, 4 characters. Number 1 would be the taxes and the carbon tax and the prices and all the stuff we are suffering from. He promised to axe the carbon tax and lower the taxes, lower the prices of the food, improve many stuff in this area. I would give you a couple of examples just to deliver for that one. Farmers are suffering because of carbon tax, which reflects on the price of the food and the grocery and the market we have. So if we cut this cycle by carbon tax cutting, it will improve the prices of the food to the door. Prices of the houses, prices of the interest rates, the inflation, control that. So he promised to control the inflation, provide more for the people. He always used the slogan of take checks back home, work checks, not government checks. So this is what he promised, and that's what we work on. Axe the carbon tax and taxes lowering and better prices. Number 2 would be about healthcare. That's close to my heart, and that's why I will mention it. We have 3 problems happening now with healthcare, and that's his solution in that. Number 1 is the opioid problem. We have a severe emergency problem in Canada, and the current government is treating it by providing more drugs, more opioids, which from medical perspective, that's not the solution. Pierre Polyev, our leader, promised to invest in treating and rehabilitation. Second problem healthcare we have is about the natural health product. This is something came new with the current budget, the bill C-47. The current government imposed new regulation, which we're gonna suffer as end users. Businesses will suffer by closing. There's a new stringent regulation, not in favor of anyone, just closing the market for natural health product. So he promised to repeal this bill and get the natural health products protected. The third one, our shadow minister, Dr. Ellis, is promising to do is Bill 323 about the psychotherapy and psychological counseling. He wants to cut GST and HST like other therapies. So that will promote mental health. So this is all deliverable points. So we spoke about inflation, the taxes, the healthcare, and the fourth one is security. In that one, he spoke so many times about the bail reform. The example he always gives that statistically, they found that in the West, I guess if my memory is correct, it's BC, there is 40 criminals went into bail and out in 1 year 6,000 times. And he always makes the jokes with the current system. People goes in, make the crime, take the bail, go out, have dinner and beer, and make the next crime and come out again by bail.
But you guys had that 10 years of Stephen Harper before Liberal came in.
But that's the current system now, which we proposed in the House of Commons to reform this bail. And we are not saying we prejudge people when they are got into the police station. All what we are saying, the frequent people who has records, either offending or like sexual assault or stealing or theft, keep them in the bail, without a bail, until they stand in court. So at least you protect the public from the recurrency of that crimes.
So what you're saying is that the Liberal government is pretty lenient on the criminals.
They need to get tough on the bail system.
So you need to bring tougher laws, reforms, to have these offenders behind the bars
until they stand in court. Yes.
Yeah. So you think they're letting go right now when they get arrested?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So and that would make it not. It's more encouraging to criminals to do crimes more. I don't care if I can get out and pay.
And they're letting it go. Why? Because of why? There's no space in the prisons, or
no? I think the problem with the current government, in my opinion, humbled opinion, is they don't care. They don't care. I would give you the example of firearms. The main problem we have in Canada, and you can discuss with the provinces. I have discussed this with many of the ministers, is the smuggled guns. So as a government, common sense says if I have a problem in smuggling, I don't go after the people who I have their driving license or their license registered. I go after the criminals and people with no licenses or no ownership. But what they do, they would just want to take the box. So they went after the firearmers, like legitimate owners of firearmers. Because it's easy, because I have a registry, I can go after them. Part of the Canadian culture is firearm. I haven't been a firearm owner, but recently I joined friends to a shooting club. It is a sport. I'm not saying that people at the street should have firearms and we go Wild West everywhere, but some areas in the north, this is kind of their sport or their part of their job, or to hunt, etc. So we can't just hunt them as long they are following the rules. When I went with my friend, she kept the safe box with 3 locks away from the ammunition. Like, she took her 20 minutes to put stuff in. So I always say people at the street, again, they don't have time to dig behind whatever broadcasted in the media, and it is on the media responsibility to say the truth. But at the end of the day, my justification is they are taking the easy way.
Okay.
By the bail or for the fine.
They are doing that. Your leader, I had the opportunity to speak to him, and he's very polished. very intellectual individual. I like that. But when we asked him questions in regards to his vision towards Canada, it was more to do with how liberal is doing this bad, all that kind of stuff, all the negativity of what liberals are doing. But what I'm trying to understand is that, we have a problem. Let's say the government changes and he comes in as a prime minister. How long do you think these bills is going to take to pass in the House of Commons to get all these things reformed, where all these problems could be alleviated? How long would that's going to take?
I would say we are already doing it. So we are not waiting until he becomes the prime minister to do that, like Bill C-11 and 18. We fought hard for it. We made petitions, the Senate stood for it, the Parliament stood for it, but then it dropped again and went through because of the alliances between Liberal and NDP. So I would say we are fighting now. We are not waiting to win in power. And many of these bills already on the agenda, immediate action, that we can rebuild it and put it in the House of Commons. But again, we need to win the power in the seats, and we need to get the votes in. Every time I meet Pierre, and that's on personal base, every problem he mentions the solution. I already discussed with you 4 points. One, I can add more about immigration because that's dear to our audience. I have mentioned the solution for every of them. Mental health we mentioned, safety we mentioned, tax we mentioned. Everything I mentioned as a problem currently, we offer the solution, but we are not able to pass it through currently. But we are fighting for it. And our current MPs are fighting for it.
How many current sitting member of parliaments are in the House of Commons from Conservative Party of Canada?
That's a tricky number. If my memory is correct, around 120 something. If my memory is correct, 120.
Okay, and around. The liberal
would be above that.
The liberal over, and then they collaborated with
the NDP to get the 25 seats from there.
So I see the shift in that is changing through some of those Ipsos reads and all the other those agencies who puts out these numbers. But I'm trying to understand that if Liberal was doing that bad, right? Even before. How come your previous leader was not able to win the seats in the House of Commons?
I would speak from my experience. I ran in 2021.
Yeah.
We came so close. I lost by 5,000 votes. I got 25,000. So
I saw the numbers.
It was just the last push. You can ask me directly how I did not win. 2 things. People don't get out to vote. They are annoyed, they are bothered, and that's what I started the conversation with. But we have to educate them to get out to vote.
Yeah.
In the federal election 2021, we had 60% of people who are eligible to vote went out to vote. When you go down to provincial and municipal, 30%.
Yeah.
So between the people demotivation, like they are demotivated, and between people they are not educated, they are afraid.
Did you have enough time to run your campaign?
No, it was a snap election.
Okay.
It was 1.5 months.
1.5 months.
And that was a tricky to get that number in that time. But we have a strong team. We had a strong team to support for that. Now, this time, hopefully we have more time. That's why we are starting early.
And who was your incumbent?
The MP for Oval North Burlington.
And that is?
Pam Demoff.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
That was last time. So if you, back to your question, how we did not win? In my perspective as a constituent civilian and at the same time the run for government, people were not that upset yet, which is different now. Things are getting worse and worse. Maybe we did not at that time offer all the solutions. We did now. And the third is educating people, have more time to educate them and get them out to vote. And I guess the 3 pillars are...
But your leader was a member of parliament even at that time.
Correct, Mr. Hanan.
So he had all those visions and thoughts on the table with the team?
We had the answers, but it was COVID time.
Okay.
That was
so
the dividing
you think because
wedge.
of the government had came forward and helped the Canadians who were sitting at home and during COVID, they won the hearts of the people with the money?
No, I don't think that.
Okay.
I don't think that. It was the wedge created by dividing the people between vaccinated and unvaxxed.
Okay.
That was so hurting. I saw families divided.
Okay.
I saw people losing their job because of this wedge, and it was easy to impact the election. That was the dividing
What did you
trick.
learn from that election, the one you ran? As an individual yourself, for the first time, you ran the elections.
Get people
and getting
engaged.
25,000 votes is a huge vote.
Yeah, yeah.
And what triggered those votes? Why people have voted for you?
We reached out to 20,000 houses in 1.5 months.
Okay.
So you can make the math. Now we have more time. We're going to reach to more people.
So when you say you reached out, did you physically
spoke
to people, door knocking?
Yes. So we had team. We door knocked almost every street in Oakville, North
people
Burlington.
Exchanged their
ideas.
and frustrations.
Concerns. Yes. It came.
And that gave you the lead.
Yes.
Of the votes.
When people see the candidate at the door, it makes the big difference because they hear from your commitment. And they can see through you. People are smart.
Correct.
They can know if you are just a fake person running for politics or you are from the people. And that makes the difference. So my learning from that election, people would get out to vote if they know you as a candidate. And if they hear the solution, as you mentioned, that what we are offering right now to them. And remind them always, I'm running for you. That's my only purpose here. And I know you don't have a time to sort the problem in the House of Commons. And I always tell them now, remember, very important message. When you don't go out to vote, you give the right to someone else who's going out to take decision on your behalf.
Correct.
So the 60% people who went out took a decision on behalf of the 100. And the other very important message, the permanent member or the member of the House of Commons, indirectly you give them carte blanche, a consent to take decisions on your behalf which you may not like afterward. So when they stood in the House of Commons, like the current member of Parliament, she votes stuff against your will, we all pay the price. Your kids will pay the price. And that's kind of consent from you to someone to take decisions on your behalf. So be smart, don't let go your rights. We're all going to pay the price for the next 4 years.
So presently, is the party leader reshaping the party right now, and are they offering the seats again, like the nominations are going out?
Yes. So the process goes as, now we have the internal nomination process, which is the fight inside the party or the votes inside the party competition contest, where the person who wins goes to be the candidate for that riding. That's happening kind of starting now.
Okay.
You would hear it on all the ridings. We don't have MPs there happening. It's tricky here because, as you may be all aware, there is a redistribution happening in Canada because of the statistics. Every 10 years, the numbers of the population increase, the census increases. So they redistribute the borders. So many borders changed and some are not. So Oakville, North Burlington is going to be changing. Oakville currently have 1.5 seats. In the future, which is mostly mid of next year, we're going to have 2 seats for Oakville and 1.5 for Burlington, which is currently almost 1.5 but different distribution. So the Milton is changed, Oakville, North Burlington changed, Oakville changed. I think some areas in Whitby also changed. Some Mississauga not much impacted. Brampton not much, so give and take. Some areas changed. It depends when the election will happen. Will be with the old borders. If it happens somewhere before April, with the new borders afterward, we will see. But for now, the internal nomination happening with the old writing.
We're going to take a very short break. Viewers, you are watching Voice of Toronto Television with me, Anjum Malik. And with me in the studios, I have Hanan Rizkalla. She is the candidate from Conservative Party of Canada from Oakville, North Burlington area. And we are having this discussion. If you would like to give us a call, if you have a question, you want to exchange your sentiments, the numbers are there, 905-670-4114. We will take a 2 minutes of commercial break, which is also very important, and we'll come back. Do not change this channel. Thank you for watching.
I want to be a data scientist. That's something I'm passionate about. I want to bring a change in the medical aspects. Data scientists do collection of the data, then they analyze the data, and then they transform the data into meaningful conclusions. Algoma is unique because we get a chance to do one-on-one interaction with professor, and that's the best part.
The need of computer science graduate is huge. Nowadays, the industry demand is changing every day, and Algoma is adaptable. Algoma is changing its course content, changing the degree programs, and giving several certificate courses that the industry is actually looking for.
Personalized learning is the hallmark of Algoma's university experience. Algoma is offering the accelerated second degree. It's the only one in province.
Algoma not only just give us in-campus experience and skill set, but they also help us develop how to present ourselves in real world. Where do I see myself in 5 to 10 years? I see myself working at some multinational corporation as a data scientist. This is the first step towards my journey.
In the heart of Mississauga and easily accessible is Chef Cause's or Dark, a premium banquet hall and event center. Its rich decor and classic ambience welcomes the guests into a royal atmosphere and festive mood. Regardless of the occasion and nature, its space and service adds grandeur and style to all the events hosted here. While you enjoy a sip at the oak-beamed drink station, the artfully crafted traditional cuisine made by our executive chef Kausar Khan will entice your taste buds. From the decor in our banquet hall to the food we serve, everything is made with the spirit of home poured into it. The essence of culture and tradition is woven into everything we do. To celebrate your next event in style, contact us now. Chef Kausar's or Dark, a tradition together.
Hi, this is Malik. Dosti Masti Dhamal is presenting a special night, Music Vibes. So I'll be performing live on 3rd September 2023 on Sunday in Toronto. So don't miss out. Grab your tickets now. Come along with your families, and it's gonna be so much fun. See you all there. Thank you.
मैं हूं तारिक खान, आपका फैमिली रियल्टर इन GTA। अगर आप कोई प्रॉपर्टी खरीदना या बेचना चाहते हैं, रेजिडेंशियल या कमर्शियल, तो मुझे कॉल करें। सेल और बाय, कॉल दिस गाय 647-787-7400।
It's good to dream big, to own a house and a business. Get residential and business loans. Get insurance to protect your dreams. Get your children in university education without monetary worries. Invite your family from back home to share your success in Canada. Me and my team of professionals will help you under one roof to settle down in Canada.
Amber Financial and Allied Services. Call now. 647-887-1696. Amber Financial and Allied Services. All services under one roof.
Hi, my name is Sandeep Singh. I'm the owner of Heritage India Restaurant. It's a fine dining restaurant with tradition and culture. अगर आप पुरानी दिल्ली की ट्रेडिशन, कल्चर और माहौल को एंजॉय करना चाहते हैं खानों के साथ, तो प्लीज़ आएँ हेरिटेज इंडिया 485 मेन स्ट्रीट ब्रैम्पटन। मैं चाहता हूँ कि आप अपनी फैमिली और दोस्तों के साथ यहाँ आएँ, आकर के हमारे खाने का लुत्फ़ उठाएँ। और अगर आपके यहाँ किसी तरीके की कोई पार्टी है, बर्थडे पार्टी, किटी पार्टी, बेबी शॉवर, तो हमारे यहाँ डिफरेंट हॉल्स भी हैं जिनका आप पूरा फ़ायदा उठा सकते हैं।
ਜ਼ਿੰਦਗੀ ਦਾ ਮਤਲਬ ਉਦੋਂ ਸਮਝ ਆਉਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਜਦ ਅਸੀਂ ਟਰੈਵਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤੇ ਜੇ ਟਰੈਵਲਿੰਗ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਸੁਪਨਾ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਅਸੀਂ ਇਸ ਸੁਪਨੇ ਨੂੰ ਸੱਚ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ। ਈਟੀਐਨ ਟਰੈਵਲਸ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਜਰਨੀ ਨੂੰ ਬਣਾਉਣ ਇੱਕਦਮ ਸਮੂਥ ਡੋਮੈਸਟਿਕ ਐਂਡ ਇੰਟਰਨੈਸ਼ਨਲ ਟਰੈਵਲ ਆਲ ਇਨਕਲੂਸਿਵ ਪੈਕੇजेस cruises super visa insurance ਇਹ ਸਾਰੀਆਂ ਸਰਵਿਸਿਜ਼ ਨਾਲ ਈਟੀਐਨ ਟਰੈਵਲਸ ਹੈ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਹਰ ਟਰੈਵਲਿੰਗ ਨੀਡ ਲਈ one stop solution, 2 locations to serve you, Brampton and Mississauga.
ETN Travels serving you from 2 locations, Brampton 905-463-1301, Mississauga 905-463-1304.
Hello, this is Tahir Mangat from Remax Millennium. I'm top producer and award winner realtor for multiple years. हम आपको प्रोवाइड करते हैं अंडर वन रूफ रियल स्टेट सर्विसेज, मॉर्गेज सर्विसेज एंड लीगल सर्विसेज फॉर ऑल द रियल स्टेट मैटर्स। मेरा कॉन्टैक्ट नंबर है 647-778-7879 and I'm searchable on all the social medias with Tahir Mangat name, and I sell it for max and I'm the best negotiator.
Muslim Welfare Canada has made a concerted effort to lead the fight against child labour, poverty and illiteracy in third world countries through the generous support of our donors. Both girls and boys receive free, good quality education. Help educate a needy child for just $1 a day or $30 per month. Donate generously. Call 1-866-754-3111 or visit mwcanada.org.
Welcome back from the break, viewers. You're watching Voice of Toronto Television with me on Wednesday night, and I'm your host, none other than Anjum Malik. And मेरे साथ हैं आज हनान रिस्कल्ला, जो कि ओकविल नॉर्थ बर्लिंगटन की राइडिंग की कैंडिडेट है मेंबर ऑफ पार्लियामेंट के लिए। 2021 में उन्होंने अपना इलेक्शन लड़ा था और शी फॉट वेरी वेल। 25,000 वोट उन्होंने लिए थे। शी इज़ अ मेडिकल प्रैक्टिशनर बाय प्रोफेशन। और अगर आप प्रोग्राम देख रहे हैं और आप चाहते हैं कि आपका कोई क्वेश्चन हो और उसको हम आंसर कर सकें, तो हमारे स्टूडियोज़ के लाइन के नंबर हमारे स्क्रीन पे है 9056704114। उस पर कॉल करके आप हमसे बात कर सकते हैं। और आप हमें फेसबुक पे भी मैसेज कर सकते हैं, और हमारा सोशल मीडिया हैंडल @Voice of Toronto TV, और यूट्यूब का भी जो हमारा जो सोशल मीडिया हैंडल है सेम @Voice of Toronto TV. So welcome back after the break, Hanan.
Thank you, Andrew.
So let's talk a little bit about yourself. Tomorrow, if election gets called, and you are the candidate from that riding, and let's say you win, what are you going to bring to the table for the people of Oakville, your constituent?
I think the most we need now is hope. Hope for the change, hope for better life.
I love that word, hope.
Hope, that's what we need now. How many Canadians I have met through the last couple of weeks almost thinking to leave Canada. We were discussing about this. People are desperate. A friend of mine works in a bank. She was telling me a story 2 days ago. A guy came in, he can't remortgage his house, had to sell, he had heart attack in the bank. So Canadians are currently like falling behind, no hope. So I think the most we will bring in hope to someone ear to you, hears you. someone care. I bring to the table hope to change for better life, affordable groceries and affordable future for you and for your kids. Hope for my kids and your kids, for education wise, for living, able to afford homes. I have a son who's 28. We were discussing about what's next. No one would be able to buy a house with this current scenario. So I think the most I will bring to Oakville North Burlington is hope for tomorrow, hope for future, hope for affordable life in Canada.
What is your party leader's perspective regarding Islamophobia?
No one
if he becomes a prime minister.
Yeah, so no one denies that there was some incidences against Muslims, and I have so many dear friends to my heart, and I was totally understanding the situation. We support Muslims for anything against them due to appearance, if a woman wearing a hijab or a dress code or something. That's all non-acceptable to be discriminated against. And he's supporting to Muslims regarding that. So he has no issues about Muslims discrimination by acknowledgement and having Islamophobic agenda to counterfeit that.
But being a French-dominated society where he is from, it is very much the other way around in Quebec, as you know.
I would speak more about Oakville North Burlington. It's more English, I would say, and we have so many Pakistani and Muslims friends there. I don't believe we have that problem in Oakville North Burlington, but if that would be, you have my support against anything to be discriminative to any person in the community, being Muslims. I have met Chinese people feeling discriminated against because what we do for China now. A friend of mine shared with me Hinduphobia petition is happening now in the House of Commons. They are claiming for being against Hindu discrimination. So I am against me or Pierre, any discrimination against Canadians, and we voice that very out and clear. No one should be feeling different, and no one should be discriminated against because of their religion, their belief, their direction of practices. Everyone has to be seen as a neutral Canadian, served and living safely in Canada.
What is your party leader's vision regarding Canada's foreign politics, foreign relations?
That's a very tricky one. We should work hard to improve our position in the external affairs. One of the areas we hardly tackle is the relationship with China and the China intervention in the internal politics, and all the stuff came in information about the intervention in the last election, intervention with candidates. Some member of parliament engaged with the Chinese community against their people here, like the Michaels incidents. The stations in the country, we are against all this. So I'm against, and Pierre, I guess, against to any intervention from external countries within our internal affairs. We have to work more into engaging with external countries and have more presence, more strong appearance outside. I think our shadow minister of external affairs or external relationship would be Michael Chung. The MP for above Milton would be Michael Chung, and he's our shadow minister for that, and we are very strong about this. I think most of the topics goes around the China intervention. It's taking the whole spot now, and we are against that.
Immigration.
Yes.
What is his? What will be the agenda, for elections, when the elections does come? And when he runs for the prime minister, and when you guys are running for the candidate, how are you going to be tackling that problem? The housing issues, the jobs in this country, the influx of immigrants who are coming into this country and mostly setting in Ontario. They're not funding out to other provinces in Canada. The application processes, the student, international student streams, those kind of things. In general, what is your take on that?
We have invited the Shadow Minister of Immigration, MP Tom Kimek
Yeah.
to Oakville, North Burlington, to speak to the people at Town Hall. And the most obvious information he gave us about the processing, it's interesting you mentioned that, about the processing time, how much it got prolonged. It's getting crazy from skilled workers, students' reviews, increased by months, not weeks, of processing time, while the government claims that they need more staffer, or they are short in staff, or backlogged because of COVID, of everything. So there is a proved discussion about we are behind in logs, and that should be attended for. There was the issue of the students, foreigners with the fake university, and how the Conservative Party supported their presence and to keep them in the country because it was not their problem. And at the same time, Pierre in general is with immigration, but he also proposing the skilled worker support to acknowledge their certificate, which is a very dear point of my heart, which is we were discussing before coming on air about when doctors, pharmacists, physicians, engineers are picked because of their skills and experience to come to Canada. When they come in to Canada, they are not able to practice in the area of their experience, and they end up working jobs which is not fit to their experience. So one of the projects Pierre proposing, and that's one of the solutions back to our first section of the interview, is the Blue Seal program, which is related to doctors. When doctors come to the country, he's proposing 6 months. The syndicate or the union or the government, the governance related to licensing, respond back to them with acknowledging their certificates or not. And if yes, they need more training or more studying, he's proposing a loan of a $30,000 temporarily, like student loan, to get them the chance to study and to afford their feeding their families. At the same time, he wants to make the Blue Seal, which is when a physician is licensed in one province, they can practice in any province else. So this is all going toward getting immigrants and get them to work in their field. And that's, I think, one of the most important points. From my point of view, and that's what I offer for Oakville, North Burlington people, I would say let's incentivize people and young generation to move from the dense area. For example, that's my thoughts. I'm speaking about myself in this perspective. If we have our young generation or new immigrants and we offer them, like a physician, for example, when they landed to the country, if you go more rural areas, I'm going to give you your license earlier because we need physicians there. I'm going to cut your income tax somehow to get you benefit. Would you move to there? Yeah, I would move. And that would help us to get less dense, like to the less dense area, and serve them by having qualified people there. So we need to increase and stress on incentivizing people to move to the less dense area, and that would also go back to the housing issue of getting dense in some spots than the other. So just to convey to your question, we are supporting to immigrants and immigration, and we want them to come in, work in the field they are experts in as soon as we can, so they become productive in the system.
Okay. I think this is long awaited.
Yes.
I mean, we have the triage issues, the backlog at the hospitals, the backlog to surgeries. You go to a merge, you have to wait 8 to 10 hours to be seen. I remember my son fell down from a bike and he had a head injury and he was bleeding. And by the time we were waiting and waiting and waiting at the hospital, his bleeding stopped. He said, "Dad, let's go home. I don't need any stitches." So it's like, it happens. It happens all the time.
Yes.
But this is a long-awaited problem that we have in this country. And if it gets fixed, like you just said, recognizing these doctors in this country who come in for not to drive, then let them drive Uber or cabs and all those kind of things, and be at the hospitals, even give them maybe a supervision on them, kind of a thing.
Programs to incorporate them, I mean, when I came to the country, like that was 12 years ago, unfortunately now I'm behind in practice. If I was given under supervision, I even wanted to be physician assistant to start with. Anything to get you in hands-on experience. You would keep working on that until you get to the step. again, remember, when immigrants come to the country, they want to help, they want to participate, they want to contribute. We kill this hope by just saying we can't. You don't fit.
So going back to that question again for immigrant and settlement program.
Yes.
Is the Conservative Party of Canada is going to cut the immigration program to a number where the Liberal government right now want to have to reduce these problems? What is in the agenda?
I don't believe cutting the immigration personally would sort nothing. Okay. If you look into Canada, we have so many empty spots. We have so many unserved and uncovered areas. Yeah. So I keep receiving this question all the time. As the Member of Parliament, would you support cutting immigration? My answer, we are not having a problem, the number as much as where and how they fit in the government. So if I bring in 100,000, but then they don't work, then they are a burden, they are a load on the system. But imagine if we have 100,000 person working, from skilled workers, from miners, if we have a gas and oil industry in the West, everyone fits in the jobs. We have 100,000 productive head person in the country. We would take country forward. But again, where is the 100,000 staying? If all of them stays in the GTA or Ontario, then we are not sorting nothing. We are just killing the country more in that spot where the rest is empty. So I don't believe the number is the problem, is how we treat these people when they come in, how we motivate them to stay, how do we give them the license, the jobs, the affordability, is the how. If these people comes in with their saving, hoping to buy houses and then inject the money in that problem, and in 1.5 years because of the interest rate the money would be running out, then I'm bringing in more burdens to the country.
What about the notion of people who are undocumented or coming in from the borders, crossing the borders and filing inland claims in this country, not coming in through the federal programs where there's a charter of rights, they can come in as refugees? I'm talking about people who are crossing the borders and coming in and sleeping on the streets in Toronto, and then we had a problem with encampments and all those kind of things.
No one would agree.
What is your leader's vision on that?
I guess what's happening now with the government, you already stopped the illegal immigration across the borders from US or surrounding area. That was under control now, and no one would agree that unaccounted for burdens coming to the country unless we account for them. Now, I can't speak in general about the topic because some people are in humanitarian saving situations, they would apply across the country, but I know that crossing the borders illegally has been under control.
It has been put on hold.
A hold on that one, so it's getting there.
Okay. Welcome to Voice of Toronto TV.
Hi there, is this the line for making a live call, live question?
It is.
Sure, should I tell you my question?
Please go ahead. What's your name and where are you calling from, sir?
Yeah, for sure. My name is Amin. I'm calling from Toronto.
I'm sorry, say it again.
My name is Amin.
I think you're listening to yourself on the TV.
And my question is with regard to inflation and monopolies. We know that when markets are uncompetitive, producers can raise prices. And that's really what's happening now, because if you look, we have 3 cell phone companies, 3 grocery, 5 banks, and I'm not hearing anything from the Conservative side with regard to using the Competition Bureau to break up monopolies. The U.S. did that with AT&T, for example, and there's many, many other examples. So I'd like to hear something in terms of what the party's going to do with regard to breaking up monopolies. That is really the solution for inflation, because producers can't raise prices in uncompetitive markets. Thank you.
Can you repeat the question?
Thank you very much, though. Thank you.
Can we repeat the question?
Yeah. The caller was talking about the competition from the U.S. into Canada in regards to the commodities and how are you going to be able to control that and all those kind of things. So that was probably, I was trying to understand the question. That was a question. Maybe he was just telling us what the answer is, not asking a question. He was just giving us a tip that this is how it should be handled. basically.
If I understood the question right, it's about the trading between us and US and how we can encourage the Canadian manufacturing. So one of the areas I put in my profile to run for is I am pro and for Canadian industry. So I bring an example of the natural health product. We are killing the Canadian production of that purpose. And I was meeting one of the business owners yesterday, and his concern is once you kill the products here, people will start shipping with whatever companies across from US to here, which is again back to the trading. So I am forward with investing in our companies, in our industry. We should reach a stage as a Canadian where we can be satisfied with our local production. The most triggering example is the COVID time, when the country was under risk.
Yeah.
You remember what's happened in the healthcare system when we wanted the vaccine, and other countries would say, oh, I'm not going to give to you until I satisfy my people. And then you wanted masks, and then you wanted alcohols, and then you wanted products. Everything was at risk. So if we understood the question right, we should be having proper plans on using the Canadian technologists and innovation and resources to satisfy our people first, and then get our products then exported to outside. We are going lower and lower in export. I was reading a report 2 days ago about our exports is getting less because we don't have our own extreme production within, and that what we should be investing in self-satisfaction kind of from our markets in different perspective. For me, it would be the healthcare as a start, because this is what I believe we can innovate in, and then it goes to every other perspective, gas and oil, farming, food industry, everything else we should be producing and exporting later on.
Now, coming back to this question of healthcare, since you are from that industry, during pandemic, if you know that in the long-term care, a lot of people have lost their lives.
Yes.
Right. Premier Ford was pretty vocal about it. They had press conferences every day, and they were talking about the system was already in place with the Liberal government in the past, blah, 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 so many years. Now, do you think since he came back, I mean, this is a provincial matter, it's not a federal thing, but since you represent the same party, you know, you're going to be, I mean, you are conservative and it's a conservative kind of a thing. But I thought to get your perspective on it, that how to fix this long-term care problems that we have in this province, where people have died in numbers during pandemic, and are we getting better with that?
I mean, again, it's a provincial issue. I can't comment much about it, but I will comment from federal perspective. I do believe we have a long way to do to prepare for, God forbid, next crisis. That's not the first or the last one would be COVID, but the question would be, what did we learn from that? Are we trying to do anything to improve our healthcare system to crisis management? Ideally, we should be federally, on a federal level, I'm speaking about federal, we should be having a proper plan. If things goes wrong again with any viruses, what's going to be the government participation to prevent the same what happened last time?
Right.
Be it the senior homes, or be it the healthcare supplies, or the products, or the industry itself. So
no, I had a question from this gentleman who just probably called. He said, no question was, what will the course active party do to break up price gouging monopolies? That is the question. So the question is, again, no question was that what will the Conservative Party do to break up the gouging monopolies? So he's talking about the price issues, the gouging of the prices. How can Conservative Party of Canada, if they come into power, how they can break that cycle?
Sure. So from government perspective, and I would speak about the inflation, I guess he tried to connect it with the inflation and tax breaking point. I do believe we can control the prices by two things. Either we provide the products, the more you provide, minimizing the monopoly, I guess he used that word, the more we have key players on the market, the better price we will have. So open the market, free trade, open the market to people to compete. So if I take food, for example, as an industry, and if I heard him right, he was mentioning also about telecommunication. So if you open the market for other providers, that maybe makes the monopoly less, makes the price competitive. The more you keep it one or two companies, that would be difficult to control. That's one of the points. Make more players on the market, gets prices controlled.
Well, I think his question, it rings a bell to me in my brain right now. During pandemic, if you correctly remember, Ford government was just trying to work with the big players in the market, and all the small businesses were shut down. They were not opening.
I guess,
and a lot of people from that industry have either got shut down permanently, they lost a lot of money, they got bankrupt, whatever happened, because Walmart was not closed, Sobe was not closed, all the big giants were not closed, and they were only allowing those people to open and do business.
Yeah, so I think what we have right now, many businesses are going out. It's more of struggling financially. So if the governments provide the support for local small businesses, that will make the players more. So I think the other solution I mentioned, one is having more players, second is having them locally. I think the players, when they are local manufacturers, local trades, local stores, these are longer term to stay. When they come from outside, easy come, and then they close and go. So having them in, protect the local markets, help local businesses, that would fight for the price control. And again, I think everything about prices came from COVID time. This is where the bottleneck came across. Everything was struggled there. We should avoid to have the businesses struggle the same way again.
Now, the riding where you are from, Oakville is the highest capita of income of people who reside in that area.
I keep hearing that,
right? No,
but I don't see that.
It is.
People are going.
It is. If you compare it, it is the highest capita of people making money in that. Yeah. So people who are already living in your area, they have big houses, they have a lot of money, they probably have multiple homes or whatever. So they are not poor people. Technically, and this is what the
perception.
Not the perception. It's a demographic. This is the demographic of the people who live there. But my question to you is this: that if people vote for you in the next election, other than being a medical practitioner who you are, in that field, what are the challenges you think that your constituents are facing right now that they have not been addressed? And if you become a member of parliament, you can take on to it.
The most important one I keep hearing is the fear and freedom.
Okay.
People are afraid of what's happening in the government and they don't feel free anymore. So I have emails from people who wants to donate to my campaign, but they are afraid the government would trace them and block their bank account. And I have this as an email written.
I see.
People are afraid. I would give you a small story from last election when I was door knocking. A constituent wanted to put the loan sign, but then he said, no, my neighbor, other side, from another party without mentioning, he dumps his trash on his lawn when he puts the conservative sign in. And my question to him was, would your neighbor put his sign up? His answer is yes. So where is freedom? Freedom of speech, freedom of expression is not there. People are worried. I was meeting a business partner today who wants to come to help, and then he was worried if he discloses his political ideology, he would find a discrimination in whatever businesses he's facing. So freedom. People are afraid of the disciplinary actions the government took against constituents. And that's how I see it firsthand, makes them think twice before voicing their opinion, which not supposed to be Canada. We did not come to Canada as an immigrants or even real Canadian from before us to start fearing or holding back their opinion. That's what should stop. People should be free to, as a family, pronounce their ideology toward their kids or their beliefs. Back to Islamophobia, they should be able to pronounce their beliefs either by wearing or by saying, People should be free to express their opinion for whatever reason they are, and then freedom to express their political opinions. So no fear, and freedom to speak, and freedom to practice. I think that's something I keep hearing in over North Burlington.
I think there is a lot to be talked,
Yes.
a lot to be discussed. The time will come for that in the next several months. We will have few other sittings when we are close to elections, and we will get to the pulse of it, that what people are thinking and where we are going with the economy, with the housing, with immigration, with the pricing, like the gouging
Yes.
of the monopolies of the big giants, and all that. I wanted to thank you for coming in today from Oakville all the way here to our studios. But before you go, I want you to put out a message to our community who are watching you tonight, and what would you like to say to them in general, as being, you know, a mother, a doctor, and also at the same time a candidate who is ambitious, who wants to make a change, wants to bring that hope to our society? What would be that message?
We have hope. There is a change for good to happen. I know it has been 8 years going from bad to worse, but things are getting better. We are getting there. We're going to win the next election, and we're going to deliver to you what you asked for. My advice and request to you: get engaged. Don't sit behind. Your voice count, and your presence with your local candidates, wherever you are, makes the difference. Call your candidates from the Conservative Party, wherever you are. I would have my website available and my email. Please text me for any concern you have regarding this. I'm from the community. I'm running for you. Let me hear you, and let your candidate hear you, and engage in their campaigns to get the right people in power this time.
Thank you, Hanan. I appreciate your time, and we'll see you again on Voice of Toronto
For
TV
sure, I
platform.
can't wait for it.
sure. We'll talk.
Thank you.
We will talk. It makes me feel, when I look at you, you're sitting on the seat, that I'm talking to Bonnie Crombie.
It's a big seat to fill, and again, it's for the people.
And I think she's also
Yes.
running for some sort of
for another leadership, yes.
role. Good luck to her with that. We will talk to her also on her endeavors, what she wants to do in future.
Sure.
Thank you. Good luck, and we'll talk again. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Do write to us. Feedback is very important. voiceoftorontotv@gmail.com is our email address. And Hanan's numbers are right on the screen. If you need to get in touch with her, call her. If you live in that riding in Oakville, North Burlington area, and you want to get in touch with her, you know, the numbers are there. So I'll come back to you guys again in the next few days with another guest and some other topics we will talk about. Till then, a very good evening, a very good night, and thank you for watching Voice of Toronto TV, and good night. Bye-bye.